Hey everyone, this is a different kind of live today. Normally, when we do the Maple Bitcoin lives, it's always Jor starting them up, but this time it's me, and I think my intro is better than Jor's. So I guess we'll stick to this. I'm just kidding. I think I just wanted to do a surprise live just to talk about a certain topic. I've been doing a couple of videos over the last few days about borrowing against your Bitcoin. So there's a strategy called. Do you know about the strategy, Jor? Buy, borrow, die. Have you heard of that strategy? So basically, you buy real estate, you borrow against it, and then you die with the debt because you know that the fiat that you borrow is going to keep losing value over time. It's going to keep dying. It's going to keep dying. And I like to call this the infinite money glitch. So in the legacy financial system, you have stocks and real estate. You can borrow against your stocks. You can use margin accounts. With real estate, you can get a HELOC. You can get a home equity line of credit. You might be able to get a personal line of credit, whatever you want to get. But essentially, you can borrow as much money as you want to, and you don't really have to pay it back. If you just keep rolling it forward, eventually the value of that money that you borrowed, the loan, is so small compared to the value of the asset that you bought that you can sell a very small portion of that asset to pay off the loan, or you can get another loan and pay off the previous loan. You can just basically roll it forward for as long as you want to. So this, I made some videos in the last few days where I tried to apply that to Bitcoin, and I basically said that you can buy Bitcoin, take on a loan against it, and if you just keep rolling it forward and you keep rolling it forward, and let's say you buy it let's say you get a loan at the bottom of the bear market, you essentially never have to pay it back because the lender is happy because they created this money out of thin air. Or I don't know how Ledn would have done it. Maybe Ledn actually has to lend money that other people give them, but I don't know. I don't know exactly their way of doing it. But if you go to a bank, for example, they'll be happy because they can print the money out of thin air. And at some point, I think there will be Bitcoin-backed loans. So they can print the money out of thin air, but they're getting the interest. So they're able to extract some value from you, right? They're able to take some value away from you and put it in their own pockets. So they're happy and you're happy because you get to keep your Bitcoin. You just hold on to your Bitcoin. Bitcoiners, yes, this is live. So when you hold on to your Bitcoin, you can see the value just increasing and increasing and increasing. It's that concept where people say you can have your cake and you can eat it too. So you can enjoy your life and you can own your Bitcoin at the same time. What are your thoughts on that, Jor? I've rambled on for long enough. What are your thoughts on that?
That was a great start to the show today, I think. Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat already, which is good. So yeah, my thoughts on this, I've kind of gone back and forth about it quite a bit. I've always seen Bitcoin as like pristine collateral. And that's kind of my main purpose for stacking it, honestly. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about people wanting to essentially retire off their Bitcoin early. Like, let's say you have a couple of Bitcoin and you just want to take a loan against it with a company like Ledn, and then you can basically use the loan proceeds to fund your lifestyle. I don't necessarily agree with that approach. I think that me personally, and I think that you agree with this too, Rajat, in the sense that I don't ever really plan on retiring. I'm much more in line with like lifestyle design, like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week kind of thing, where you take mini retirements along the way. That to me makes a lot more sense than working for 60 years of your life, or 70 probably now with a fiat dollar if you're still in that system. And then, at that age, you have a lot less spunk, you might say. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but just energy. You don't have the same kind of, get up and go as you would have when you were 30 or 40 or even 50, right? And so I'm a big fan of the mini retirements along the way. But I think that we will both continuously be adding value to the world, whatever that looks like based on our specific skills. But I do really, I'm really into the theory of lending against your Bitcoin to accumulate more Bitcoin. I think that that's a really solid strategy, because if you consider like the rich dad, poor dad model, which I'm thinking you've read before. It was one of my favorite books when I was kind of in my mid 20s, and it changed the way I think about money and think about debt as a whole. In terms of taking on debt to buy assets. Like the average person kind of takes on debt to fund their own lifestyle. This is kind of what I'm talking about here. But if you're actually taking on debt, in fiat terms and you're using that to leverage against and accumulate other assets, I think it's a no-brainer. And I think it's a much better strategy than actually the real estate option, where people buy a house, wait for the price to go up because they print more money, take the equity out of that house to go buy a new one, and keep just doing that. But there's a lot of different moving parts within that strategy, which I think are very much simplified in Bitcoin instead of real estate.
Yeah, some really great points there. So one of the things that that I like that you said there, people use their debt to consume. So what they do is they use it's different if you take on a HELOC to consume compared to a credit card, right? So if you
Yeah.
use a credit card to consume, what you're doing is you're taking on debt at a high interest rate, right? And that's terrible because you're paying 20%, 30%, 25%, whatever the interest rate is. That's terrible. That's very painful in the long term. And you made a really great point there, because that's what people are doing. So people aren't even borrowing money they're not borrowing money to improve their life in the future. They're not borrowing money to improve their future. They're using that money to improve their present and to consume as much as they possibly can, right? So with
Or to pay
Bitcoin,
off other debt that they
oh yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah, and then it's just like an infinite credit card, right? You keep going, you keep going. It's you get stuck in that on that treadmill where you don't pay anything off, and you just get stuck dealing with the minimum payments for the rest of your life, right? Like I had people who this guy I had a client who was paying for his student loans for a very long time. He was in his 50s or his 60s, and he graduated school in like 35 years ago or something like that. But he was still paying off his student loans, which is crazy to me, because when I explained to him how the interest on them works, he had no idea. He didn't quite understand what I was saying there, right? So depending on what kind of debt you take, some people might think, oh no, borrowing against your Bitcoin is terrible. You shouldn't do it. Never do it. Never do it. But depending on what you use that debt for, I think with Bitcoin, because the growth rate is so high compared to these other assets, and the interest rates are relatively affordable compared to the growth rate, I think I think it's okay to use your Bitcoin to sustain your lifestyle in that way, because worst case, you can just use some of your Bitcoin to pay off that loan, right? With a house, you can't really do that.
Yeah, I think that's a better strategy than selling Bitcoin for sure.
Yes. Because then you have basically like it's almost like I mentioned this to you before, but it's almost like a stop loss, right?
Yep.
Where if Bitcoin's price comes down, you have some of your Bitcoin liquidated, but it has to drop more than, like in the examples that I've given before. Let me show my compound interest calculator here. In the examples that I've given before, basically your Bitcoin would have to drop by 37.5% for you to have your Bitcoin liquidated. So to have your assets liquidated, right? So in this case, let's say for example, I found out how to update the numbers automatically on this. So let's say
Nice.
you give 0.2 Bitcoin as your collateral. That collateral is worth $23,550. The price, so let's say the current price of Bitcoin is oh yeah, okay. So in this case, you have a very low LTV loan. So I'm not sure, Jor, do you want to explain what LTV is?
I mean, from my understanding, because I'm not a finance expert, but the loan to value you want to be as low as possible. The higher it gets, the higher chance you have of getting liquidated. So I think with Ledn, if your loan to value gets up to 0.8, they liquidate you. But the nice thing about something like that is they kind of warn you along the way. And this is why I actually prefer Bitcoin to something like real estate, even though Bitcoin's a lot more volatile historically, anyways. The nice thing about a Bitcoin loan is you can top it up anytime. You can easily transfer some Bitcoin in to reduce your loan to value. So you might want to explain like the technical, like a better, different option of that or different way of doing it. But that's
Yeah.
kind of how I see it. Is you want the LTV to be as low as possible.
Yeah, that's smart. That's basically it, right? So the LTV is the loan to value. So all that is the loan, the amount of your loan divided by your collateral. So the value of your collateral. That's it, right? So the lower your loan to value is, the more likely it is that you won't get liquidated, right? So let's say for example, we'll go with we'll try to create a 50% loan to value loan here. So we'll go times, so your collateral times 0.5. So what this means is if you have 0.2 Bitcoin today at the current price of Bitcoin, you can borrow $11,775 against that Bitcoin. I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying that this is what you could do if you wanted to, if you made the decision to borrow against that Bitcoin. If you only have 0.2 Bitcoin, then I don't think you should do this, right? You shouldn't borrow $12,000 against 0.2 Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin's price drops, so today's price is 117,000. If Bitcoin's price drops to 73K, you're going to start getting liquidated. They're going to start selling your Bitcoin to pay off your loan, right? Your collateral has to go from being worth $23,550 to $14,719. So with Ledn, for example, once your LTV goes to 80%, you start getting liquidated. With Strike, once your LTV goes to 70%, you start getting liquidated. So I'll put 70% here. So with Strike, Bitcoin's price would have to drop to $84,000 for you to start getting liquidated. And every lender has a different way of doing it. There's another one called Salt. I was talking to someone today. They said 90% with them. So if Bitcoin's price goes to $65,000, they'll sell all of your Bitcoin. They'll turn it into stable coins. It was Quinn. And I don't know if you remember, but
Yep.
They'll sell your Bitcoin, and then they'll hold stable coins in its place. They'll sell it for stable coins essentially. So depending on how much Bitcoin you have, you may not want to do this, right? What I would recommend in general is don't do this unless you have a significant amount of Bitcoin, right? So your collateral should be 5% of your stack. So in this case, it would be, you'd have to have, I think, 4 Bitcoin. Yeah, so 4 Bitcoin. You'd have to have 4 Bitcoin in order to get a loan of 0.2 Bitcoin. And that means that you'd have to have a significant amount of wealth, right? So right now, this may not be the best thing to do. But over time, as Bitcoin's value goes up, maybe it would be smart, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that if I were to do something like this strategy, and it's something I've been thinking quite a bit about lately, it definitely wouldn't be more than 10% of my stack. I would say somewhere between 5 and 10% of the stack. The other thing I would say to that too is, like you mentioned, if you do this in the bottom of a bear market, that's kind of the best time to be doing it, essentially. So you might never have to pay it back, like, you know. And my opinion is, I think we're going to go much, much higher in the next 6 months here. So if you're thinking about doing this strategy and you have the sufficient amount of Bitcoin, I would say don't take too long trying to figure out, like, take some time. It is a very effective strategy. And I like the fact that if you're only using 5 to 10% of your total stack, even if things did go south on you, which if you're managing it properly and you're, you know, staying up to date with where things are, you're probably going to be fine. Either way, even if you got liquidated here, worst case, I don't think anybody would here if they're paying attention, but you're still going to have 90% of your stack there, which, I mean, it sucks, but you're not toast, right?
Yeah. So somebody said here, don't ever pay interest. It's haram. So maybe they're Muslim, not maybe they follow Islam. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to borrow money against your Bitcoin, that's perfectly fine. And that's one of the great things about Bitcoin. It gives you a choice. With fiat, you have no choice. If you don't borrow money with fiat, then you're going to lose. You're guaranteed to lose. You're going to lose no matter what if you don't borrow fiat. If you don't borrow against your Bitcoin, that's perfectly fine. Your Bitcoin will continue to grow. You can sell some of your Bitcoin to pay for your expenses. And I completely understand this sentiment here.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the choice.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing with that too is, what was I going to say? Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, so let me actually, okay, so let's go into the next thing that I want to talk about. So what I wanted to talk about is that infinite money glitch. So what I mean by infinite money glitch is that you have risks going to the downside. Let's say, for example, Bitcoin's price drops to 65K. You could get liquidated. Part of your stack could get liquidated. And that's perfectly fine. I'm sure all of you understand that. I've mentioned that so many times on my channel. So don't borrow against your Bitcoin if it's your entire stack, right? I'm still hesitant on borrowing against Bitcoin, just if for the general population. I don't think the general population quite understands Bitcoin yet. I don't think they quite understand finance yet. I don't think they understand interest yet. So that's kind of unfortunate. But with Ledn, so let's say, for example, with Ledn, you have a loan for $11,771, 0.2 Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price has to go to 73K for you to get liquidated. Let's say that never ever happens. Let's say it doesn't happen. Bitcoin's prices goes up, up, up. Let's say, okay, let's say, just to be realistic, let's say it goes down to like 80K. it never actually touches the 73K level, what happens? So in this case, if Bitcoin's price, I'm just going to do the calculations here. So if Bitcoin's price goes to 73K, 73,573, your LTV, oh, I think I did the wrong calculation here, but your LTV would drop your, let me see here. So we'll paste values only. So that's the loan. Your Bitcoin collateral. Okay, so if Bitcoin's price drops to 73,573, you could potentially get liquidated, right? Because your loan to value goes all the way to 80%, and they'll start selling some of your Bitcoin in order to bring your LTV back down to 70%. So you could potentially lose some of your Bitcoin. You also have to consider interest, of course. But let's say, for example, this never happens. Let's say it goes down to like 75K, or it goes down to 80K, and then it just turns right back around, right? So in this case, Bitcoin's price is going to go up over time. We already know that. We know that Bitcoin's price is going to go up. So what you could do is this is the infinite money glitch. So let's say Bitcoin's price goes to 200K. Oh, 200K. Sorry, I put 20,000. 200K. At this point, your collateral is worth 40K. Right? Once your LTV goes to 25%, with Ledn, from what I know, you can take out your excess collateral and you can take on another loan. Right? So potentially, if Bitcoin's price goes to 40K, and let's say they let you take out your collateral and take on another loan, you could now add another $8,000 to your loan. So you can go to 20,000 as your loan. Right? So you started with, let's go back to where we were before. You started with $23,000 worth of Bitcoin, and now you can, because Bitcoin's price went up, you can now increase the loan that you have. Your Bitcoin collateral has increased, and because fiat value, the value of fiat will keep decreasing, you're going to see that Bitcoin's price will keep rising. So we put our example at 200K, eventually it'll be 300K, right? Then eventually it'll be 400K. Then eventually it'll be 500K. And at this point, when Bitcoin's 500K, your 0.2 Bitcoin is worth 100K. Your loan is only $20,000. You keep in mind, you refinanced, you took on another loan. Your LTV has dropped back down to 20%. And now you can take on another loan. Do you see where this is going? Do you guys see where this is going? Anybody who's watching, Jor, what are your thoughts on this? Did I explain that the right way?
Yeah. I mean, what was I going to say on that? There's a couple different things to think about right now. I think the thing that scares me most about this at this stage is just the high interest rate. And I know, kind of where we are right now. The thing that makes me feel a little bit better is I do think that we're going to go for a nice little ride here in the fall. But I just think that based on like the dynamics of Bitcoin lending and stuff and how the liquidation works, I think that the rates should be a lot lower than they are, because what are they even at Ledn right now?
Like 12%?
Yeah. See, that seems high.
Yeah. Because the lender has no risk.
Zero risk.
They could just sell your Bitcoin at any time and they can take your fiat back, right? And because of that, I think the rates are actually going to keep falling. But keep going with your point there.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it that way too, from the bank's perspective, they're going to get to a point with the interest rates where, I mean, one of the questions I have about this overall is because let's say that all the Bitcoiners start doing this, like this becomes like the new real estate strategy. And the lenders here in this case, they have to be holding a bunch of cash. And I guess it's a little bit different with the banks, because kind of as you said there, they use the fractional reserve, and I'm not exactly how sure Ledn finances how they finance theirs. But at some point, I feel like there's going to be people aren't going to want to hold any fiat, because you have to keep in mind here that for you to take a loan at Ledn, somebody on the other end of that deal has to be holding fiat, a lot of it, right? Because they have to be able to issue something and send your fiat to you. So the people who are holding the fiat in this case, Ledn or whoever they're connected to, at some point, I just feel like they're going to say, why are we even doing this? Why don't we just take this cash and fiat that we have here that we're lending out and just buy Bitcoin? Because we're only making 12%, soon to be 10, and then 8, and then 6. Why don't we just buy Bitcoin instead? And then what happens? Like what's kind of your long-term thesis on this?
So the way, like, I think that there's a lot of, the way that I see it, I think Ledn, I'm not sure how Ledn creates money. I'm not sure how they give out the loans.
I'm guessing they would have some sort of third party that I don't think Ledn's holding all the cash. That I wouldn't guess anyways, because I feel like they'd have a lot of a lot of they need a lot of fiat for that. And I don't know how big of a company they are. I feel like they would have some third party lender there that they just kind of get a percentage of or a commission based off of. That's what I
Yeah.
would suspect anyways.
I also wouldn't be surprised if they can just print more money.
It
I don't know.
depends who it
I
is
don't know.
though.
Yeah, it depends on who it is. It depends on who they work with. Like, let's say they have an agreement with some major bank who can print money, but the money when you get it, it comes from Cayman Islands. So I don't
Oh
know.
really?
I don't know the details. I don't know if it's even worth discussing that because you don't know, right? You have no idea what the background is. You have no
Yeah.
idea what's happening in the background. So, and this is we got a couple comments here. If you never pay back the loan, aren't you just the same as the government's printing dollars at this is the same as gaining more debt? It's okay, that's fine. But the point with Bitcoin is that you can actually take advantage of that. You are taking advantage of that. And with before Bitcoin, you couldn't do that. You didn't have that power, right? Bitcoin gives everybody that power now. And that's what changes things. So you said, where is this going in the long term? I think that because this is it's like you mentioned, like I mentioned, it's basically risk free for lenders,
Yeah, it's
right?
risk free to them, but it's an opportunity cost if Bitcoin keeps going up for another 10 years at 50% CAGR, and they're only making 12% on their fiat or 10% or 8, whatever that is.
But they can just print more money.
I mean, it depends who it is. Like, I don't think whoever would be connected to Ledn has the ability to just print more money.
But what I mean here is that in the next 10 years, we're probably going to see the major banks doing this,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
The major banks can then start printing money if they want to lend against Bitcoin. Maybe they have to have a lower, or maybe they have to have a higher LTV. Maybe they require 60, 70, 80%. But at some point, I do think that they're going to be printing money for these loans, right? There's also, like, if you think about it right now, it's still risky because you could be liquidated.
Hmm.
At some point, I think there's going to be Bitcoin mortgages where you can't be liquidated,
Yeah.
right? So the bank is guaranteed that profit and they just dump it into Bitcoin. Think about it. Think about what Tether is doing. They're minting new coins, and all they're doing is they're holding treasuries,
And
right?
golden Bitcoin.
Right. So they got that gold in Bitcoin because of those treasuries, because of the interest from those treasuries, because they're one of the most powerful companies in the world now, right? But they're gonna have competition. There's going to be other people who want to do the same thing. Let's say, why wouldn't the major banks want to create their own stable coins?
Yep.
Right? They're going to have competition in the future. And then over time, that's just going to drive the price of, or sorry, that's going to drive the interest rates down because more people giving out loans. You have a person right next to you who's, let's say you have two banks next to each other. They're both giving out Bitcoin loans. One's giving you 4.5%, one's giving you 4.25%. Why would you go with the 4.5%?
Yeah. Well, it's the same as why you choose different banks now. It's based on, the relationships you have, their customer service, things like that. I think customer service is actually going to be different topic, but I think it's going to be very important in the future. I think that as AI and everything advances, I feel like there's going to be a huge premium on actually being able to talk to a human being that speaks English. So that could be one differentiating factor there. The other thing that I think about with this stuff is with the banks and with the collateral, I actually don't think that people will be able to get a mortgage in the future unless they have Bitcoin. And so even if somebody has 0 Bitcoin, though, like let's say that there's just some random guy who's been ignoring Bitcoin for the last 20 years, he wants to go buy a house. Historically, he would have to put up about between 5 and 25%, I believe, or I guess 5 minimum percent here in Canada for a house. And I think instead of the bank just taking that fiat and like holding on to it, I think that they're actually going to take that down payment and buy Bitcoin with that. And so then on your loan, you would have both the house and the Bitcoin as your collateral on that. It makes way more sense than having the house and fiat versus the house and Bitcoin. So I think that that's going to create a huge demand for even more Bitcoin in the future too.
Yeah, and then this is like that, like we said, the infinite money glitch, right? Where if you want to buy a house, how do you buy it? You buy Bitcoin, you save in it. So let me go to the other tab here. I think this is the best tab that people really like seeing. So let's say you can only save $100 worth of Bitcoin. Or actually, let's say you can save a decent amount of Bitcoin, and your goal is to buy a house. Let's say you can save like the people who are saving for a house, they're able to save a lot more than just like the $100, $200, right? So let's say, for example, if you're trying to save for a house and you want to do it ASAP, you're able to save $1,500 a month to buy that house, right? Bitcoin's price grows at 35%. Your cost of living is $5,000 per month. you have a cost of living increase of 5% per year, right? You're doing this monthly, so you can see the compoundings. Basically, you're putting away $50 a day, right? So in the first, let me put this down to zero. So you're starting with $0 worth. You're starting with 0 Bitcoin. So your first year, you're going to accumulate $24,300 or 0.15 Bitcoin. Second year, you're going to get to 26 million Satoshis. You're going to accumulate another 11 million Satoshis worth. And by then, by 2027, it's worth $57,000, right? By year 3, you have 0.35 Bitcoin. By the beginning of year 3, you have 0.35 Bitcoin. Sorry, what is this? So this would be beginning of year 2, beginning of year 4, sorry, end of year 3. You'll have 0.35 Bitcoin. Then you'll accumulate another 6 million Satoshis. Beginning of year 4, you have 0.41. Beginning of year 5, you have 0.45. And at that point, beginning of year 5, your Bitcoin is worth $241,000, right? And now you can take on a loan against that Bitcoin if you want to. So what you would have put into this, so we can see here 5 years. So in 5 years, you would have put in 90K, which I think is pretty standard for a home loan, right? 90K
Nowadays, yeah.
right? So you would have put in 90K in 5 years, but because you bought Bitcoin with that 90K, you have $241,000. So then you can turn around and you would have normally like just given that cash away to get your down payment, right? So in this case, instead, what you could do is you could take on a loan against your Bitcoin. You have the Bitcoin and you can get the house. So you get a loan against your Bitcoin, put the down payment, or get the down payment. You can pay the down payment. You can wait a little longer if you want to. You can take a more safer loan if you want to. Let's say you wait until 2035. You have 66K as a down payment. If you want to do like 5, 10, 15% or whatever, you have that Bitcoin and you can take on a loan and you can buy the house now, right? And then you can use that house. You can get that house with a mortgage. Right, this opens up so many opportunities. And keep in mind that this started with your original $1,500 a month that you were going to use to buy a house in the first place.
Yeah, it's endless. That's why I like the infinite money glitch thing, because it's endless. There's endless possibilities of what you're going to be able to do with your Bitcoin in the future.
Yeah. And then let's say we combine this with your idea of setting aside a UTXO for Bitcoin, right? So you set aside, let's say you set aside, instead of buying $1,500 worth of Bitcoin every month, you go $0 worth of Bitcoin every month towards this fund. And this is like your sinking fund. So you put 0.1 Bitcoin towards this fund, $11,772 today. In 2032, it's worth 100K. If you want to, you can sell it to put the down payment on that house, for that down payment on that house. Or you can borrow against it, wait another couple of years, borrow against it, use that to get a loan on your house, right? And this is another way to stack the infinite money glitch, right? Because over time, that 0.1 Bitcoin keeps increasing and increasing. At some point, you'll be able to buy a house with 0.1 Bitcoin. Like a whole house, not even just a down payment, a whole house.
Yeah, I like the idea of the UTXO too, kind of thinking through this like really long term.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep in mind here that if you're somebody in Bitcoin right now, you're definitely going to be going to the bank one day and taking out a loan against that Bitcoin, whether it is for a house, a truck, anything, a family vacation, right? There's going to be so many opportunities and options for you as a Bitcoiner. But one thing you have to keep in mind is when you actually go to transfer that Bitcoin to the bank, you got to make sure that all of your Bitcoin isn't attached to that one UTXO. That's why I like the idea of separating it out now, because then you can, instead of having, let's say you had a huge UTXO sitting in your wallet right now, maybe half a Bitcoin, and you wanted to use that in the future. I mean, you could probably deal with it at the time. There's going to be maybe more strategies to do that in the future. But at that point, you would pretty much, if you sent that Bitcoin, you only needed 0.1 of a Bitcoin for your loan, but you had a UTXO with 0.5 of Bitcoin in there, you're pretty much going to dox a large percentage of your stack to the bank that they don't really need to know about. Yeah. I think it's something to keep in mind for people here is just your own privacy and your own, keeping stuff private to yourself, because as this thing goes up in value, you're going to have enough targets on your back, and you want to keep your balance as private as possible, pretty much just to your family, I would say.
Yeah, completely agree. Actually, you wanted to talk about UTXO management, right? You wanted to add that on here. So we talked about the infinite money glitch, and I think this is actually really a great way to transition into something else that's really important. Of course, like you said, the UTXOs, making sure you don't dox yourself. Can we maybe talk about that safety part, where at some point, if you do borrow money for against your Bitcoin, you're gonna have to give somebody that Bitcoin, right? Because they have to hold it for you. How do you keep yourself safe in that case?
Yeah, I think the big problem right now within Bitcoin is there's a lot of people on YouTube who have like a decent understanding of UTXOs. And I don't claim to be an expert. I don't think there's an expert in Bitcoin right now, but I spend a lot of time thinking about this and talking about it. And I feel like most people on YouTube within the Bitcoin um, ecosystem here, they're focused 100% on future transaction fees. And so kind of their advice is you want to get larger UTXOs. So people will say like have a minimum UTXO of like 1 million sats, which is fine for today because that's about $1,000 US for a million sats, just ballpark, a little less now. But, um, in the future, if you play this out 10 or 15 years, what do you think that 1 million sats is going to be worth? And if you just have all UTXOs that are a minimum of 1 million sats, it's going to be great for transaction fees. You're going to save in transaction fees, but your privacy is going to be compromised significantly. So when you're thinking about your UTXOs and when you're structuring your wallet and your sats, you have to be thinking about both of those things, both the future transaction fee costs and the future privacy concerns. And so that's why I usually tell people to have a very nice mixture of UTXOs, like a couple generational ones, maybe 50, 60% of your stack within a couple UTXOs. And then I like to have like 10 or 15% of my stack in like a UTXO that I plan on lending against in the future. And that's only that UTXO is what I'll show the bank. They don't need to know how much Bitcoin I have, but only that one UTXO that I have, I'll show the bank or share with them. And then from there, I like to tell people to have a large variation of UTXOs. So maybe like 50,000 sats, which seems low today, but again, play this thing out 10 or 15 years. And that 50,000 sats is actually going to have a lot of purchasing power. And what you want to be worried about with this is when you transfer that Bitcoin or spend that Bitcoin in the future, you don't want whoever you're sending it to be able to follow that back and see the balance of your UTXO. I mean, they're going to be able to see the balance in your UTXO. So you don't want that UTXO to be too high, right? Like the analogy that I usually use here is like if you had a billionaire and he purchased a new quad from somebody on Marketplace, and the billionaire sent an e-transfer to the seller of the quad, and let's say it was $20,000. If you do this wrong, it would be the equivalent of like sending an e-transfer to somebody and that person being able to look back at your bank account and your bank balance and all your transactions and see that you have $1 billion there. So when you're thinking about your UTXO structures, you should be focused on both your future transaction fees and the future privacy. So that's why I like having a good mixture, not just like big UTXOs, because you're really going to compromise a lot of your privacy in the future if you strictly focus on the transaction fee side of things.
Yeah. So actually, let's do that. What I see that live, or sorry, the super chat there. Um, I think that's actually really important. Your explanation of this was very important as well. So let me just share my screen, and then we can go into we
Yep.
can go into it deeper. So let me share my screen here, and this is with Sparrow Wallet. So on Sparrow Wallet, what you can do is you can set up a test wallet. You can go into if you set up Sparrow Wallet, you can set up a test wallet, and then on that test wallet, you can receive test satoshis. So you can receive test Bitcoin, right? So if we go into the UTXOs on this wallet has $187 worth of fake Bitcoin, right? So if we go to UTXOs, we can see here that there are multiple chunks of Bitcoin in this wallet. See that here. So you see one for 148,000 satoshis. I'm sorry if this isn't clear. Let me actually see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so at the top there, you see one that's 100 and oh, okay. So at the top here, you see one that's 148,000 satoshis. You can see the number here. You see another number here for 10,500 satoshis. And you see another one for 1,000 satoshis. So if you want to consolidate your UTXO, so this is the opposite of what it says in that comment. If you want to consolidate those UTXOs, all you do is you highlight all of your UTXOs, and keep in mind this is on Sparrow Wallet. You go to send, so you highlight all of them. You go to send selected, and then you can choose your transaction fee. So I'm going to go 1 sat per VByte. We'll go, we'll decrease this to 1 sat per VByte just to, I don't know what'll happen here, but let's see.
You should just be able, yeah, there you go.
I need to add an address. There you go. Okay, so this is a consolidation. I'm just putting that as the label, and we'll go max. Why is it not letting me go max?
I don't know. It might be something to do with that fee that you put in there.
Oh, yeah? Let me see.
I don't know.
Okay, let's delete. How do you delete this? So we'll delete this from here. Okay, there you go. Okay, so let me try doing that again. So we'll go send selected. We'll go max. Oh, yeah, I think it does have to do with the fee. So in this case, the fee, I don't want to pay that much as a fee. Even though it's fake Bitcoin, why would I want to, right? So let's see here. We'll try to do that. So we'll go consolidation. Insufficient funds. Wow.
I think it's because you have that one in there, Rajat. That's messing with everything. Like the one beside your fee there. Yeah, just delete that.
Oh, okay.
And now try max again.
Max. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, you're right. Okay, perfect. So 2.551 sats per VByte, and we go create transaction. We'll go finalize transaction for signing and go sign. Broadcast transaction. And whenever this transaction is broadcasted, there you go. It's not confirmed yet. We'll go testnet. So this is the transaction here. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, this is, where is it? No, it didn't come up yet. It'll probably come up in the next few minutes. But essentially, that's how you consolidate your UTXOs, right?
Yeah.
If you, oh, there you go. So minus 260 sats. This is the new UTXO. Do you see that? It hasn't been confirmed yet, but this is the transaction that would have happened, right? So what I did was I consolidated all of our 3 UTXOs, 160,000 sats in total, to now 160 sats with 1 UTXO.
Yep. And I think based on that, can you highlight that comment again?
Which one?
Breaking them up.
Oh yeah. Sorry. This one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would say to this, I actually wouldn't do this, because if you think about how you'd break up UTXOs, you'd essentially take one of your UTXOs. Let's say you had 50 million sats in one UTXO, and you wanted to send it to like 10 different addresses somehow and break up that UTXO. You're still going to be able to backtrack from there, because that's how the Bitcoin blockchain works, is you can always follow it backwards. So it would be kind of ineffective to do that, I would say. So what I would say, instead of worrying too much about that, let's say you have a couple big UTXOs and that's kind of all you have right now, and you're a little bit worried about future privacy. I wouldn't do anything. I would just say, like, in the future, when you're sending Bitcoin from an exchange to your wallet, just use lower amounts. Like next time, maybe use 100,000, and then next time maybe 200,000, and then maybe 50,000 sats. Like, kind of just start now and start thinking about this stuff now. Don't try to do anything retroactively here. Just start now and start thinking about this differently. And somebody in the comments said 50,000 sats is way too low for UTXO. I disagree. I mean, if you plan on spending it in a year from now, yes, I agree with you. But like, if you're thinking about this 10, 15, 20 years out, 50,000 sats, the purchasing power that that's going to have is going to be substantial. And so you're pretty much going to be able to buy anything except maybe a house, I think, for $50,000 in a couple of decades from now. So that's why I don't have any issues with keeping 50,000 sat UTXOs. And the nice thing about doing that too is it's because it's in your cold storage. That's why I like doing that myself, both for future privacy and because I can actually take custody of that, right? Because if you're trying to increase the size of your UTXOs, that means that you're probably either A, leaving it on an exchange, which is a risk, or you're keeping it in a Lightning wallet. If you're withdrawing using Lightning, both of those you don't actually have the keys to unless you're a little bit more advanced and you're running your own Lightning node. But for the most part, the average person there, those are two risks, both the exchange and the Lightning wallet. And I prefer myself just to have the keys and the ownership of my Bitcoin. It just sits better with me. So that's why I don't mind some smaller UTXOs like 50,000. I mean, that's probably at this point, that's the lowest that I would have. If you have some smaller than that, I would consolidate them. But like, again, it really depends on how young you are, how long you plan on keeping these sats for, what you plan on spending them on. There's a lot of different things to kind of consider with these UTXOs, but it's a very important part of Bitcoin.
Yeah, and then labeling them. You can label them
Labeling
as
them, yeah.
well. You can say, let's say for example, if you receive a UTXO, you can say KYC, non KYC. But okay, so I think that's important. But let's go back to what this person was saying. So how to break up UTXOs? Just because I want to answer the question. So that was UTXO consolidation. Very easy, very simple. It's not hard at all. It might be it might be a little scary the first time you do it, but after that, I think you'll be fine. So if you want to break your UTXOs, so what you can do is somebody else asked a question: Is break the same as consolidate? No, it's not. So it's different. So
It's the
what you're
opposite.
doing here, is, let's say for example, you can imagine this as $160,000 bill, right? So this is 160,000 satoshis. You can almost think of this as a $160,000 bill. So if I go to a convenience store and I tell them, hey, give me some change for this, what I can do is I can give them the $100 bill and they can give me as many or $160,000 bill, and they can give me um, whatever denominations they have, right? So let's say they have $101 bills. You can do that. So what you can do is you can break this into a hundred, 106, 1,600 Satoshi UTX UTXOs, right?
Yep.
Or you can do something like you can split it into two 80,000 Satoshi UTXOs. And that's what I'll do just to keep it simple. So what we'll do is we'll break this into multiple UTXOs. We'll go send selected. And then we'll actually we'll copy an address from our own wallet. You can see that here. If you go to receive, I'm just going to use the same wallet. I'll go to send. And what I'll do is I'll send 80,000 Satoshis. And I'll go consolidation again.
Reverse consolidation.
Yes. Oh, break. You're right. Reverse consolidation or break. You're right.
Mhm.
That was a good catch. Break. Okay, so we'll go 80,000 sats. We'll decrease the fee to again 141 sats. Okay, and we'll go create transaction, finalize signing, sign, broadcast. And now you're going to see that if we go back to the wallet, this transaction cost 141 sats. If we go back to the UTXOs, we can see here there's one for 80,000 satoshis and one for 80,000, or one for 80,031 satoshis, the other one for 80,000. Very simple, very, very easy. I think this is not too difficult. I think the first time you do it, you might be a little worried. You might be a little scared, and that's perfectly fine. But do it a couple times, and I think that you'll be surprised that you made this seem a little bit more difficult than it actually is.
Yeah, I think the main thing here, Rajat, is that Sparrow is the easiest way to do this. I haven't seen any other Bitcoin wallets that have this level of like the view of it, the simplicity of it, the options, the functionality. So for anybody out there who's not using Sparrow yet, I would suggest honestly, like Rajat's using testnet coins here, which you can get from like a testnet faucet, which is a good way to learn how to do this stuff. Zero risk at all. You can get these testnet coins for free. Or you can put a little bit of your own.
I'll send a link in here. So I sent a link in the chat. It's free. You don't have to do anything. Go ahead.
Or you could just actually, if you go to file, Rajat, file, new wallet.
File, new wallet.
You can actually set up a wallet in replace of like a mobile wallet like AQUA or Moon or something like that. You can actually generate a software wallet on Sparrow too. With the keys are hot. You can also use something like a COLDCARD or a Jade or a Passport that you actually use air gapped with Sparrow. That's what Rajat and I do with Sparrow. But you can just at very low risk, you can learn how to do this stuff with either testnet coins or just creating your own software wallet like Rajat can show here. So you just go to new wallet.
Yeah. So go to new wallet, and then I'll just go Bitcoin test. This is a real wallet. This is not testnet, right? So this is a real wallet. If you go to tools, restart in testnet, if it says testnet, then it means that you're in the mainnet. If this says mainnet, then it means that you're in testnet, right? So if you go to new or imported, go to mnemonic words. We'll go with instead of 12 words.
You can't see that. It's just showing. It's not showing the pop up.
Oh, sorry. Oh, let me change that.
Yeah, you might have to do entire screen or something.
I think that's what I have to do. Perfect. Okay, so there you go. Can you see it?
Yep.
Can you see the pop up?
Nope.
Oh, I think I gotta open it again. Can you see it now?
Nope.
Oh, weird. Okay, let me stop sharing, and I think I was sharing the window again. Oh, entire screen. There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so
Vintoshi says, so essentially what's happening is you're creating sub accounts to obscure total held Bitcoin for privacy reasons. Is this possible with Ledger? I've never used Ledger myself. I think if you're using Ledger, you should upgrade it. But I'm pretty sure within the Ledger Live software, I'm pretty sure they have some sort of UTXO management that you can do in there. I know for a fact you can with Trezor. So I'm guessing that Ledger would be similar. But like I said, if you're using Ledger and you got a decent amount of Bitcoin, I would suggest getting something else.
yes, yes. I spoke to somebody today who had a Ledger, and I told them go for either Trezor or ColdCard. Very
Yep.
important. So here you can actually choose. I forgot to mention this. You can actually choose between single signature, multi-signature. If you go single signature, you go to new or imported software wallet. Can you see the pop-up, Jor?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So here you can choose how many words you want. So you can go 20, 24 words, 21 words, 18, 15, 12. So I'll go with 12. And then I'm going to add a passphrase here. So your passphrase is basically just a passphrase is not, it's not a password, but it's like a password, right? So if you
It's more
have the
important
12
than
or
a password.
right. If you have the 12 or 24 words and you don't have the passphrase, you can't access your Bitcoin. Right? So we'll go sorry, can you explain that? Why is it more important than a password? Why do you say that?
Well, because if you set up a password for your Sparrow wallet and you
Yeah.
forgot your password, you could always take your 12 words that you generated from Sparrow and put that into a new
Right.
Sparrow wallet. But if you forget your passphrase, your Bitcoin's gone.
It's done, yeah. So we'll go yes here just to show you how it works. So and this is something that you taught me, Jor. So if you go Bitcoin, if you go
Buttcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah, if you go Bitcoin with a capital B, I'm not sure if people can see this. I'm not sure if it's big enough, but if you go Bitcoin with a capital B, that's one passphrase. But if you go Bitcoin with a lowercase b, that's a different passphrase.
Yep. Different
So you
wallet.
have, so you have to make sure you know that. You have. I think Jor, you have a story on that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, my story, it ended well, thankfully, but I created a passphrase for my COLDCARD and I didn't write it down anywhere. I didn't tell anybody about it because it was a pretty common name or a pretty common word within my family. But then I woke up one night at like 4 in the morning, I think, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know why this happened, but I was like, oh my god, I don't know what my password is. I didn't write it down. I didn't tell anybody. If I lost this, I have a lot riding on that. And I came downstairs and I tried a few different things, but it was case sensitive, and I wasn't sure if I put like an exclamation mark or a dollar sign behind it. So it's pretty important if you're setting up a passphrase to make sure you don't keep it in your head, because if you get hit by a bus or you develop some sort of disease where you don't have memory anymore, a lot of things could happen. Life is very unexpected. So make sure, and not just your wife either, because you have to think about it this way too. Your wife and you probably travel, or your husband and you probably travel in a car together. You probably fly on airplanes together. And so if you're the only two people who have that passphrase or have knowledge of that passphrase and something happened to you, your Bitcoin's gone forever. And that's okay. Like if you want to donate it back to the Bitcoin community, that's one thing. But if you plan on passing it down to your kids or to whoever, it's important to kind of have a copy of that passphrase in a very secure place, and more than just you and your wife or husband know about it. Or even kids too, because kids could be in the car, kids could be in the airplane. You have to think about this stuff very seriously.
Yeah, you might want to give that passphrase to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll work?
I mean, passphrase, I would feel better leaving with a lawyer as long as you don't like directly label it passphrase for Bitcoin or something like that.
Right.
I would feel more comfortable leaving a passphrase than the 12 words. But there's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can hide it in a book. You can leave it in your grandma's behind her photo or something. She might not even know it's there. Like there's different places. You just have to think about, your own setup and your own threats. Everybody's kind of different there, and you can encrypt it too. That's what I usually recommend people do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's generate these words. So this is the passphrase of Bitcoin with a lowercase b. If you go generate new, these are the words. So rib, access, priority, hungry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of this. You shouldn't do this on your own. Don't take a screenshot of this, because if you take a screenshot and anybody has access to your computer, they have access to your Bitcoin, right? So avoid that. This is just for the purposes of this demonstration, right? The only reason why we're taking a screenshot. Otherwise, you never upload these words to your computer.
Ever.
Never upload them to an internet connected device. Don't take a picture of them. Don't put them on a cloud server, anything like that, because if somebody has these words, they can take your Bitcoin, right? So this is your Bitcoin. This is essentially your Bitcoin. So we'll go confirm backup, re-enter words. So they asked me if I've written it down, but no, I did not. I'm a rebel. I took a screenshot. So, so we'll go rib access priority Hungary. Oh, RIBA, RIB access.
Did you say Hungary or Hungary, like the country?
I think it was Hungary, like food. Access. Okay, priority Hungary.
Here's a fun fact for everybody.
Yeah, while I fill this in.
The word, all these words come from the same word list. I think there's 2,048 words, if I'm not mistaken. So each Bitcoin wallet using the BIP39, I think it is. I might get some of this stuff wrong, but that's not the point. They're all generated from the same word list. And so the cool thing about these word lists is that you actually only need the first 4 letters of each word. They just put them into word form, so it's a little bit more readable by humans. But you actually only need the first 4 letters of each word to restore your Bitcoin. So you'll notice, like, if you get a steel plate from CoinKite, they only have space for 4 letters in there. So you might say, well, I have this word yellow. How am I supposed to fit yellow 6 characters into a 4-character slot there? But it's because they actually you only need the first 4 letters of every word.
Yeah. So I just want to show that what you're just saying. So if you put in R, you see there's a bunch of words, but the word is actually rookie. So I'll go rookie. If I go rookie, then it says that it works. We'll go with another one. So we'll go horn. HOR. See that with HOR, there's still 3 options. The only ones that you need is the 4th one. So what's another one? So we'll go with express, maybe. Oh no, that's the other one. That's the only one. EXP. Oh, EXP. Yeah, see, you only need 4 letters. So EXPR, there's only one option.
Only one option. Yep.
With EXP, there's a bunch of options. You can see that here. You can see the list, right? EXPRESS. So that's the word. So we'll go create key store. What does that mean? Create key store. Do you know?
That's your private key. Like that's your wallet.
Yep. Oh, is key store another word for like to store your private keys?
Yep.
Oh, key store, I guess, right? Okay, okay, that makes sense. I didn't even think of it that way. Okay, so we'll go create key store, and we'll go import key store. So is this enter private key? I haven't done this before. So enter private key. Is that a way for you to recover your Bitcoin? Oh, actually, no, it should be the same thing, no? To recover your Bitcoin?
Yeah. You would just go, instead of create wallet at the top, like when you go to file.
Yeah.
You would go to restore wallet instead of create new wallet. And then you'd put your 13 words into that, or 12, and then the passphrase.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I can see that. Okay, so we'll go okay. I had to enter the passphrase. If you guys notice that, if you go import key store, you have to enter the passphrase. So it's Bitcoin with no capital B. I'm going to show you that. Bitcoin. Actually, let me do it wrong first, and then you can see. So we'll go Bitcoin with a capital B. We'll hit OK. Import error. Do you see that?
Yep.
If we go Bitcoin with a capital N, so we'll make everything lowercase. But if you just make the mistake of having one uppercase just by accident, hit OK. Import error. Is there spaces in this? Yeah, there is. So if you, let's say, for example, if your passphrase is like Bitcoin space forever, we'll go Bitcoin forever. But if you don't know if there's a space in there, then you're screwed, right? If you don't know where the spaces are, and if you don't know where the capitals are, then you're screwed, right? So just to put in this one, so we'll go Bitcoin again. That's the right one. We'll go okay.
Yeah, like some people use full sentences, like Mary had a little lamb or something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually pretty, because if you have the spaces, apparently it's much harder for computers to find the word that you used.
Yep.
So we'll go apply, add a password. I'll go no password, but you should add a password. If somebody has access to your computer, always add a password. I'm going to do it for this one with no password because I'm not going to send Bitcoin here. So we'll go no password.
So one thing I would say on that is, like, if you're setting up a hardware wallet like we're doing right now, or sorry, not a hardware wallet, a software wallet, like we're doing a hot wallet on here without a COLDCARD or anything else connected to it, I would suggest using a password. If you do have a COLDCARD or a Jade or a Passport that you're connecting to this Sparrow wallet, I don't usually put a password on it because even if somebody came across your laptop or stole it or broke in your house, they actually can't move any Bitcoin out of there without your actual signing device. So again, like we talked about there, even if you lost your password, you could just upload it into a new wallet. And I'm notorious for forgetting passwords myself, so I never put a password on it because you can't move any Bitcoin. All somebody could do is they'd be able to see your Bitcoin balances and your transaction history on there.
Yeah.
If you have an air gap device. If you don't, definitely use a password.
And they can't move your Bitcoin.
Right. They need the device.
They need the actual device.
Yeah.
Anything that we missed here? I think we went through that pretty well. We went through the setup of a wallet. We went through the UTXO consolidation and breaking a UTXO. Are there any super chats there, Jor? I can't switch over because if I do,
yeah, Gambler's Luck said it's not to do with Sparrow though.
Oh, okay.
He said I had $4,000 to buy a truck, instead used the $4,000 to buy Bitcoin and took out a loan with my stack LTV under 35%. Was this a smart move? I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you got Bitcoin and a truck now instead of just a truck.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that though. So to buy Bitcoin and took out a loan with my stack LTV under 35%. So 35% LTV. So he must have used some of his Bitcoin that he had there existing already, because 4,000 wouldn't be sufficient for that. But yeah, I love that idea. Under 35%, you'd have a lot of wiggle room before you get liquidated. Like Bitcoin would have to go to like what, Rajat? 40K maybe?
Let's see. So if you have, so in this case, your LTV is 0.35. So we'll go 0.35 divided by 4,000. So in total, you'd have to have, what happened here? No, I did that wrong. 4,000 divided by 0.35. So, I did that wrong again. So 0.35. So you'd have to use $11,428 worth of Bitcoin as collateral. So we'll go, we'll just put in the numbers here. So I'll go 11,428. Get rid of that one. Bitcoin collateral, that's the amount. I'll go 0 for this. Actually, no, I won't do that. I'll use the values to calculate what it is. Actually, no, this is gonna get confusing. So I'm gonna get rid of the price. We'll go this divided by, it's like 170K or 117K.
Yep.
Just to make it easier. I don't want to go through the numbers again.
So pretty much 10 million sats, or
yeah,
9.7 million sats.
9.7 million sats, yes. So we'll change this to automatic. What's the total amount? So it should be, right. Is this it?
Yep.
97. Oh, one more. There you go. Okay, so that's the amount of Bitcoin that you would have given as collateral. You would have taken a $4,000 loan. So your loan to value is 35%. So in this case, we'll go 117K just for the purpose of this. In this case, your Bitcoin would have to drop to, Bitcoin's price would have to drop to 51K for you to get liquidated. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. And I would say the odds of that happening would be 0.0000001%.
Yeah.
Wait, barring something crazy, right? Like barring something that we would never be able to foresee. But
yes,
you know, even a flash crash, like it almost seems like we're past the flash crash part of Bitcoin, because as soon as it drops at all, there's so many people waiting to buy with like limit orders and stuff like that who have cash on the sidelines. Nobody's waiting for 51,000 to buy Bitcoin right now.
Yeah,
I would say there's a very small percentage of people who are waiting for it to hit like under 100,000 right now. So you're pretty safe there. And again, kind of the nice thing about using something like Ledn is if you did somehow, like let's say that Bitcoin started creeping down to like 80 and then 70 and then 60, and you're like, oh man, I might get liquidated here. You can just fund your account with more Bitcoin to reduce your LTV and bring it down more. And that's why it's important not to use your full stack with this, because if you had your full stack there and you were close to getting liquidated, you wouldn't be able to stop that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's so important. And I think that's what we were talking about in the beginning too, right? With the real estate loan. So what we were talking about before with the real estate, with buying real estate to using a Bitcoin loan, that's essentially the same thing, right? In this case, I don't know what you're using the truck for there, Gambler's Luck. Maybe you're using it for a business, right? And that could be a capital asset, right? And you could use that asset to generate way more than $4,000, right? Let's say, for example, you generate $20,000 with that asset, or I mean, $4,000. If you buy a truck and you start a business with it, you could generate $100,000 a year, right? And you use a small portion of that $100,000 to pay back the loan. So let's say, for example, after the first year, you think that, okay, I don't want to keep this as big of a loan. Your interest rate is like 10%, so your loan grows to $4,400. Your LTV has gone up a little bit because we didn't change Bitcoin's price. But let's say Bitcoin's price in that time goes to 150K. 150K Bitcoin. Your LTV has increased a little bit. Has it increased a little bit? Yeah.
That didn't change. There must have been something got disconnected there. That number didn't change.
Oh, okay. 100. So we'll go 150K. What didn't go right here?
3850 didn't
this
change.
This thing didn't change. Yes, you're right. Sorry, which one didn't change?
Oh, the 3850.
Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to make this one a fixed number. So we'll go values only, and then we'll make this one this times this. There you go. Okay, so we'll go 150K. The Bitcoin goes to 150K. Your LTV is now down to 30%. And then Bitcoin's price goes to 200K. 200K. Your LTV is now down to 22%. You already used the Bitcoin to get a loan for $4,400, and that's after interest after the first year. But now, if you want to, somebody mentioned before, can you take the collateral out before the end of the term? You may not be able to take it out before the end of the term, or actually, you'd be able to take it out before the end of the term if your LTV drops enough. So with Ledn, from what I know, if your LTV drops to 25%, you can take out part of your Bitcoin. And then what you could do is you could take out another loan, right? So let's say, for example, if you take out $7,000 from this, so you bring it back down to 12,000, just for the sake of this example, and you get another $7,000 worth of Bitcoin on hand, you can now take on another $3,500 loan, right? With the 50% loan to value. And that's super valuable because again, that's where you can say, let's say you take on another loan and you upgrade your truck, right? So your truck has basically created all of this value for you. And maybe, who knows, maybe you stacked more Bitcoin. Maybe you just kept adding more and more Bitcoin to your stack.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's where the value comes from, right? Let's say, for example, if you increase the amount of Bitcoin collateral, so you have 0.097 Bitcoin right now, let's say you increase that amount to 0.15. Your loan to value has dropped significantly.
That'd be kind of smart, actually. Like if you got into a scenario where you actually are taking out a loan to like buy more Bitcoin or whatever you're using for to like buy assets or invest in your business or whatever that is, instead of just using it to consume things. If you were adding, if you were adding value and every month you got paid and you had, let's say, $500 worth of dollars left over after, maybe instead of putting that all towards Bitcoin, maybe you put like 250 towards the loan and you just keep bringing down your LTV. So when the time's right, like if let's say Bitcoin runs up or whatever that may be, or it gives you more cushion for when Bitcoin runs down, but you can take out another loan in the future and maybe invest even further into your business or invest into something else or whatever that is.
Yeah.
But that kind of makes sense to me. Instead of just buying Bitcoin, you could split between your personal stack and actually adding Bitcoin to your loan balance to actually bring down your LTV, just to put you in a better position and be more flexible for the future.
Yeah. So Bitcoin Nurse asked, so why are we not all doing this right now to keep buying Bitcoin? You can, but keep in mind that you want to keep your LTV low, right? So let's say, for example, if you do it today, you may be able to add like 10% to your stack, right? And then I think that's a great decision, but we're in the middle of a bull market, right? So how much can you risk? What if next week we notice that 124K was the top and you borrowed at 124K and then Bitcoin's price dropped 60%? That could be very painful.
Yeah, like it's not a bulletproof. Yeah, I would say the main thing when you're thinking about this kind of stuff is just to be very aware of like the agreement that you sign, be very aware of the terms,
Yeah.
be very aware of like the LTV and what the liquidation is at. And you have to keep a pretty close eye on this. I mean, you know, if you get in at 50%, you have quite a bit of wiggle room there, but you should still be aware of like how it works and how to like fund the account, because the last thing you want to do with this is get liquidated. And it could happen because Bitcoin is known to be volatile. I don't think it could happen at this stage of the game, but I've been wrong before in my life before. So it's definitely not like a sure proof strategy here, but there's definitely you can make some hay with this if you're smart about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Like you can, like somebody else said, you could just sell the truck if it got that bad, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sounds like 30 to 50 LTV max. I would even go. I would go way lower if it's compared to your entire stack. Go way lower than
Yeah.
that. If you can, like if it's compared to your entire stack, then go with like 5 to 10%, like we said before. Maybe even lower than that. Like there was.
Don't put your whole stack up though.
That's exactly it,
Yeah.
right? Don't put your whole stack up, because if you put your whole stack up and you borrow 50% against that, you're putting
Or
yourself in a very difficult position.
or if Ledn goes out of business and
Yeah,
your
you
Bitcoin
lose
just
everything.
disappears
Yep. Yep.
and you did nothing wrong.
So I would say, what I would say is use this as a last resort, right? Or use it, like plan it out, right? Don't
Yeah.
just use it as, oh, I need to go buy, I need to go to this concert, so I'm going to borrow against my Bitcoin. No,
Right.
don't do that. That's dumb. Don't do that. That's
Unless
really,
you're,
really
you
dumb.
know, the one exception to that, Rosetta, is I would say like if you unless you have like a stable income, not a like a, you know, a stable income, and you know that you're going to be able to pay that back in like 3 months, but you just need kind of an advance. And
Yeah.
instead of having to sell your Bitcoin to go to the concert, if you just took a loan against it, if you know that you're going to be able to pay it back, which, you
Yes.
know, with the uncertainty in the world right now, I don't know how for sure you could be about that. But there would be some people with a business or a certain profession where you know that you can pay that back in 3 months. I would rather take a loan than have it to sell my Bitcoin if I really wanted to go to the concert. But I know what you're saying. You use this strategy to buy usually appreciating assets or investing in yourself.
Yeah. Don't ever risk your entire stack. That's the key. That's so important. So Coran asked if the spreadsheet is available for everybody. Of course, I want to make sure that everybody can use this. Just download it on your own computer. Go to File, download to your computer, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can't access the one that's here, like the one that you see here. This is just because this is the master copy, but you can see exactly the same thing on the copy that you download. Awesome. Anything that we missed there, Jor? Any inputs, any questions, any thoughts?
Yeah, we should take a rip through the comments. I saw there was quite a few good ones in there. But the one thing I would say is like kind of how this conversation and the whole live stream today, like we don't usually do these on Saturdays.
Yeah.
But how it came to be is we had a really good happy hour yesterday. We have a happy hour every Friday with our Maple Bitcoin School community. And we had some information. There was a lot of people asking about UTXOs and lending against your Bitcoin. And so we figured like it was a good chat, very valuable information. And we figured we would just kind of bring it to the YouTube and go from there. So that's one thing we started doing the Maple Bitcoin School community is we have a happy hour now. It's like a private Q&A for all the members within that. I think there's 150 now or 151 maybe. Bitcoiners from around the world. You can come out of the live chat. You can turn on your camera. You can turn on your audio. You can ask questions with a little bit more context. And you have direct access to Rajat, Forrest, and myself every Friday. So it's a pretty good price, I would say. I think it's $27 a month now for that. You get 4 sessions per month, plus all the exclusive content we have in there, our master classes, and of course, just the community itself. I think it's a really good canary in the coal mine, you might say, just for staying on top of different threats within Bitcoin, staying up to date, being aware of things. It's hard to follow between X, Reddit, Nostr, everything you need to be worried about with Bitcoin. It's nice to have a community that has your back. So that's kind of what I would say on there.
Yeah.
Someone acting a fool?
I just banned them. You're just saying meme stuff. I added the link for the community in the chat. Go check it out. It's free. You can join it temporarily if you want to. You can just check out the free trial. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, you get we actually, even if you can't make the happy hour on Friday, we do we upload the recordings for the members to look at after. So you'd actually have access to 3 or 4 private Q&As that we've done so far with just members. And we can talk, I don't know if I want to say this or not, but we can say things in the private chat. We use Zoom on there, and we talk about things that we wouldn't necessarily talk about on YouTube. There's more personal questions. There's more privacy stuff on there. So that it's a good place for that.
Yes.
But
were
if
there
you're
any
a
specific
Fed,
questions
don't
that you
take
saw
the
there?
What's that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you're a Fed, forget what I just said.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't join the group if you're a Fed.
What were you saying?
Okay. So were there any questions, any specific questions that you saw that you liked?
Oh, I don't know.
I was so bad at these questions. I didn't even pay attention.
Well, let's just get through a few because Arnie's starting to whine here, so I'm gonna have to take him right away.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen. So this first one here, we'll go through them quickly.
Okay.
Can you take a loan against your BTC in America? I wish you can. Depends on where you are, but you can. Okay, next one here. When do you think the bear market will take place? I have no clue.
2037.
2037. Why?
I just think that there's going to be so much demand, even if you have to keep in mind about this. Like, what causes bear markets? What causes bear markets? Think about this logically. It's people selling. It's people who don't know what they're holding and they're selling it for fiat. The majority of people anyways. There's other reasons for it, of course, but like when you consider how much demand there is compared to the amount of people that are going to be selling their Bitcoin over the next decade, there's not going to be any huge crashes. I don't think that, like we've seen in the past before. There's way too much demand right now. And when you factor in things like we talked about for the last hour, in terms of people being able to lend against their Bitcoin versus having to sell their Bitcoin, that also has a big impact on the selling part of this thing. So again, usually what causes bear markets is a bunch of people selling it. But if there's enough demand to meet that, it kind of flatlines. But even more so when you have lending available now, where those people who would normally sell their Bitcoin to pay for things aren't selling their Bitcoin anymore. I just don't see any significant crashes for a decade. I could be wrong, but it just doesn't make sense logically in my head that this asset would ever take a steep drop right now.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really knows when's it gonna happen. Nobody has any idea really. But don't even really worry about that, right? I mean, I don't even think that really matters. To me, it doesn't matter because the way that I see it, the price is a distraction.
Yep.
The only thing that really matters is the amount of Bitcoin that you have.
Yeah, consume some Jeff Booth stuff. He'll tell you how irrelevant the fiat system is. And one simple trick that I like to do whenever I'm getting worried about the price is just think about how many Bitcoin are actually available. So we know that there's going to be 21 million in 100 years from now available. Let's say that 3 million of those coins have been lost. So use 18 million just as a very conservative available supply of Bitcoin. Take the amount of houses around the world, 2.2 billion houses, divide that by 18 million. That's if the only asset was houses. One house would be about 800,000 sats. So the disconnect there, you can buy 800,000 sats for about $1,000 today. You can't buy a house for 800,000 sats today. But the disconnect there is just people don't know what this asset is. The difference is the disconnect in education and people actually taking the time to learn what this asset is. So it's, focus on stacking sats. Don't worry about the fiat price.
Absolutely.
Get as much as you can.
Completely agree. Great explanation there. If you can keep stacking Bitcoin, I think you're going to be really happy. Like you can buy that house today for $500,000, or you can buy the Bitcoin today for 1,000. You can make that choice yourself. But the people who buy the house, their value is going to bleed into your Bitcoin.
Yep.
I think that's so important to understand. Their value is going to bleed into your Bitcoin because people are going to want to sell houses for whatever they can get for Bitcoin at some point. If they can get Bitcoin for it, they'll sell them for Bitcoin. But over time, people who have Bitcoin are going to be willing to give away less and less of their Bitcoin for houses. Right. So the goal here is just to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. The bear markets might happen. They may not happen. You never know. I have no idea when the bear market's going to happen. But don't worry about it too much. Just accumulate. If you don't have enough Bitcoin, then a bear market is good for you.
Yep.
All right, let's go for the next one. We'll just do a couple more. I don't think we can answer all of these. If you do want to have these questions answered, I'm going to be staying on for a while. So if you want to send a super chat and I can try to go through it. Okay, so the next one here. I don't know. Sounds risky to me. Everything is risky, right? If you leave your house in the morning, you're taking the risk of getting hit by a bus, right? You have to take logical decisions. Let's say, I'm assuming this is in regards to borrowing against your Bitcoin. Of course, it's risky, right? Because you can lose your Bitcoin. You're giving your Bitcoin to somebody else. But the alternative is you sell your Bitcoin. You have to give your
Yep.
Bitcoin to somebody else regardless. But if you borrow against it, you might lose it. If you sell it, you are guaranteed to lose it, right? So it's up to you how you want to do it. But if you're planning to borrow against your Bitcoin and you think it's risky, don't borrow against the whole stack. That's what we've been talking about the whole time here, right? Don't borrow against the whole stack. Borrow against a very small amount of your stack. So then that way, if Ledn does fall apart, you don't lose all of your Bitcoin.
Yep. I'd say 10% max.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. This is actually a really great question for you, man. Best wallet.
Best wallet for someone new.
And then I followed it up with this.
Oh, Jade or Trezor. For somebody new, like a really good place to start, honestly, is just the AQUA wallet. You can download it for free from the App Store. You can take custody of it. It gives you your 12 words. You can hold Bitcoin on there. You can hold Lightning on there. You can hold Liquid on there. You can hold USDT on there. It's very flexible. I use my AQUA wallet pretty much every day. But in terms of like a hardware device, I would just go with the COLDCARD. I've set up Jays before. I've used the Trezor as the first one that I've owned. The COLDCARD gets a really bad rap. Oh my goodness. We're going to go right away. The COLDCARD is, it gets a bad rap for being too advanced, complicated, but it's really easy. Whether it's Jade, Trezor, Passport, whatever it is, they're all the same process. The nice thing about the COLDCARD though, is it has a lot of advanced features. So as you get more and more comfortable using it, as your knowledge increases, you can do a lot more things with the COLDCARD than something like a Jade or a Trezor. You can do things like trick pins, duress pins. You can't do that on the other devices. So it's the same kind of setup. I would go with the COLDCARD. Has 2 secure elements in it. So if somebody tries to crack it and get your private key out of there, it'll brick itself. Really solid device. That's what I use myself here. It's a COLDCARD Q.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So you can use batteries in there, or you can plug it into USB-C. Sorry for Arnie's whining here, everybody. It's about an hour past his usual walk time.
Okay. Do you have to go?
I can stick around for another 5 minutes, I'd say. We'll get through these questions here. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go with would it be this is a unique question. Would it be a good move to get a loan against 1 Bitcoin, put 50K into yield max dividends and collect the weekly payouts? Also pay the monthly loan with the payouts. So we made a video on this on the Maple Bitcoin community, and we went really in depth into this. Of course, we can't give you an hour answer for this. We went into all of the numbers. I would recommend watching that video, but there's a few things you have to consider here, right? What if the yield max ETFs fail? You have no idea if it'll fail, right? Let's say, for example, you borrow that money against your Bitcoin, and then overnight, Bitcoin's price or MicroStrategy's price skyrockets. It goes up like 10x, or it falls like 80%. Not only is your Bitcoin going to get liquidated, but your ETFs are also probably going to go to zero, right? So you have to consider the risks. The chances of that happening are very low. I don't think Bitcoin's going to drop 80%, but I'm a human. I have no idea, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. We don't have a crystal ball to predict that, right? So what I would say is, what do you think? What do you think, Jor?
I would say like the video that we did, the masterclass that we did in school community, we talked about this for an hour straight.
Yes.
The video is an hour and 3 minutes long, I believe, specifically talking about this exact question. So again, the Maple Bitcoin community, you can join it for 7 days for free. Try it out. You can watch that video there. I would strongly suggest sticking around. You're probably going to want to once you see what's in there and you attend one of our happy hours. But that's what I would say. Take an hour, watch that. If you have any more questions, you can attend the happy hour, ask us a question in there. If you have a follow-up to it, if we miss something in there, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say that it's risky. And it may not be worth it, but nobody really knows what's going to happen. Nobody has any idea where that's going. It could go to zero, right? So if it goes to zero, go ahead.
I was just going to say it also depends on how many Bitcoin you have.
Yes.
Like if you got 20 Bitcoin, that's a no-brainer, right? Because
Yeah.
that's 5% of your stack. So we approve that. Or even if you had 10 Bitcoin, that's 10% of your stack. If you have 1 Bitcoin and you want to take a loan against your full Bitcoin, I wouldn't advise that.
Yes. Agreed. It goes back to that principle that you're going to lend or you're going to borrow against maximum like 10%, 15% of your Bitcoin if you want to, right? Even 15% I would say is risky, but
Yep.
go against a smaller amount if you can. The smaller your loan to value, the better off you'll be with not having to pay back that loan. The more likely it is that you create that infinite money glitch and you can keep borrowing more and more against that Bitcoin. So we'll get rid of this question. This one. So this is like the for the passphrase. I would say yes. So what's happening is you're creating sub accounts to obscure total held Bitcoin for privacy reasons. Yes. It's possible with Ledger, right?
I think so. I think you can do that with Ledger Live. I don't think it says, I don't know. I actually don't know. I've never used Ledger. I've never used Ledger Live, but I'm pretty sure it has that ability to do that. I just don't know how different it would look. And if you can like highlight ones like you can in Sparrow and consolidate it that way. Or break it up. You could definitely do that you could break them up. Like we said, they're creating sub accounts. So if you had one huge UTXO that you wanted to split up, you could definitely send it to different receive addresses within your ledger. So you can definitely do that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it from all the questions that the good ones that we had. Oh yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's fine. How to remove that question that let's see here, that comment. Oh, I think this is it. Okay, here you go. Okay, I think that was it. I think that was like really great live session. I think that was very valuable. Oh, somebody asked, why don't we have a crystal ball? Because we just don't.
Somebody said, how do you spell that wallet name? I'm guessing they're talking about the COLDCARD.
Oh,
COLDCARD. There's a couple questions right after too talking about that.
oh, let me pop that up here. Oh, somebody mentioned the COLDCARD here.
Yep.
So
I
that's how you
shared a
spell it.
link there for people. I think you get like 5% off there. I shared it in, I don't know if you can see it in that chat though. Probably not. Hey, it'll only be in the Maple one.
Oh, I think it'll only be in the Maple one. Let me try to. You want to share it in the because I don't have my own
Oh
link.
yeah.
So you
Yeah. I
want to
can
share
send
it
a
in the
private
chat
chat.
and then I can share yours.
Yeah. I'll also put the link to the school community in Maple Bitcoin and 88 Sats Radio one.
Perfect.
I forgot that you can't see it if you're in different spots here.
Oh, why is my private chat not showing? For whatever reason, it's not showing. But okay, I think we'll if you can go into Jor's chat there, you can find the link. I don't know how I can share it. This one.
You can't see the private chat there?
Oh, I see it. It's on the side. Normally, it's at the top. So when you
Oh
share,
yeah.
okay. Oh
So you
yeah,
got
okay.
it?
Now I can share it. Okay,
Okay.
here you go. So go to this link. Support Jor.
Yeah, it'll get you 5% off. CoinKite. The one thing I would
Amazing.
say about that, if you're ordering some cold cards, I would get 2 of them. I talk about it all the time why I get 2, but you basically take your 12 words from the first cold card, write it down on paper. You take your second cold card, make sure that you can actually restore it properly. And then further down the road, when you go to set up like a multi-sig, you can use your second device there. Plus, you can use that secondary device as kind of a practice one. And make sure you get a micro SD card from CoinKite as well
Yep.
in the order there.
Or you can just get it separate. I'm not sure how expensive the micro SD cards are on CoinKite.
They're
Actually,
pretty marked up.
that's something that I would be very paranoid about.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get it from CoinKite, I would try to separate it, right? Because if you're getting it from the same place, if you're worried about them colluding or doing something crazy that can maybe steal your Bitcoin, maybe it would be smart to get it from separate places.
Yep. Just make sure you get one that's less than 32 gigabytes. That's one thing I've found with people is it's obviously marked up quite a bit on CoinKite. So they go down to like Best Buy and get one for like, 64 gigabytes. It's actually not compatible unless it's 32 gigs or less. So it hardly uses any data. You could probably get one for like 512 megabytes, but you just have to make sure that it's less than 32 gigabytes. Otherwise, it won't work with the cold card. It won't be compatible.
Yeah, and don't be cheap and get it on Amazon. Don't do
Definitely
that.
don't do that.
That's stupid. Don't do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that. That's really dumb. Because what happens is if you get it from Amazon, somebody can ship it to them and they can put it up as a Trezor or a cold card or whatever kind of wallet. And the issue is that they could have uploaded all of their information on there and they could have put their wallet on there. And Once you set up your wallet, it'll show up as like, oh, this is your Bitcoin wallet. If you don't know any better, what's going to happen is you're going to send Bitcoin to their wallet and they're going to have full control over it and they can take their Bitcoin out. So buy it from the company that produces it, right? From the manufacturer. Yeah. So like Jor sent his link there, use Jor's link. Don't go to Amazon. If you want to, go to coinkite.com. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Coinkite.com, use Jor's link. Don't go on Amazon. Don't be lazy.
Don't buy it on Amazon. Don't buy from Best Buy. Don't buy from Walmart. Don't buy it from a marketplace. Whenever you're dealing with Bitcoin stuff, get it directly from the source, directly from the manufacturer.
Unless it's something like the seed plates.
Right.
Yes, right. But even with the seed plates, let's say, for example, if you buy the seed plate on Amazon,
they have your address.
They have your address, right? I just thought of that. I didn't think of that before.
That's the nice thing about CoinKite is they actually delete all of their customer information every 6 months. So they'll store your address, obviously, if you're getting a cold card shipped to you, but it won't be there forever. They delete all their contacts after 6 months, or they say anyways. I don't really have a way to verify that, but that's what they say.
Yes.
So yeah, pretty important, and that's another thing too. You got to be conscious about as a Bitcoiner. You should, even though it's going to cost you a little bit, it might be worth finding a place in your town or city where you can actually get yourself like a box number instead of putting your physical address. If you're getting something like a
really good idea,
yeah, like go and get yourself a PO box. That where somebody can't like scrape that information from the internet and see your house on Google Maps and go to your actual physical location. It's probably not a huge deal today, but this is something you got to start thinking about in the future for sure.
Have you seen the washers method?
Yeah.
Where you carve your Bitcoin private key into your washers and then you use that to store your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it too.
I like it. There's just,
it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. It's definitely better than putting it on paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. You really have to take a look at all of your threat models and try to come up with a counter solution to all of them. And you might have to take some time and actually think about what they are, like whether that's fire, tornado, hurricane, flood, $5 wrench attack, government seizure. You have to think about all this stuff and whether or not your security would actually hold up in that scenario. Because for the most part, that's actually what made me start Bitcoin Citadel and start working with Craig on the Superback stuff, is because I would just lay in bed and think of all the different things that could go wrong here. And finally found a solution, which is encryption.
Yeah.
So think about it though. Everybody's kind of on a different part of their journey. Within Bitcoin security, you kind of just want to take it one step at a time. And so just wherever you are right now, try to get a little bit better as your next step. And then just keep going with that. So anyways, thanks for having me on, Rajat. This was a lot of fun. I think we covered a lot of ground today, and I'm glad you and I connected somehow in this crazy world.
That was awesome. Oh, watch. We're going to post the podcast that we had together. And then we're going to post the one with Forrest.
Oh, the security one.
No, not even that one. The other one. The one that we did first. The very first one. We'll post that one. I think that's extremely valuable. I think that conversation was amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're listening to this one today and you have a couple questions on like security, on how to store your private keys and stuff like that, maybe you can share the one we did on security, because that one was really in depth on like different multi-sigs, encryption, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thanks. I'm going to take this whiny little guy for a walk. So thanks, Rajat. Thanks, everybody. Have a good Saturday. We'll talk soon.
Okay. All right, later, man. I'm going to stay on here. So don't leave if you want to continue to have that conversation.
How do I leave this? I'm not used to this. Oh, okay, leave. There we go.
You just go leave at the bottom there.
See you, Rajat.
All right, later, man. All right, so the video with Jor was this one here. So I'll share it with you guys. Shared it in the chat there. So go watch that video. I think that one was really great. We went through a lot of the security stuff. We went through a lot of the different things that are keeping your Bitcoin safe, how to keep your Bitcoin safe and all that stuff. So we'll go watch that video. I shared it in the chat there. Okay, let's go through the comments. Maybe I can answer some questions on my own as well. So we see here, this is a great question. Somebody said, as Bitcoin becomes a bigger asset, naturally you will get diminishing returns. Do you think this will eventually match the 10% returns of the S&P 500 or lower? Love all of your stuff. Yes. I personally think this is a great question, by the way. The way that I see it, I think that the S&P 500's returns are going to be lower than Bitcoin's until Bitcoin is the global money. So at that point, everything will have been repriced in Bitcoin terms, and maybe after that point, we start seeing the S&P 500 performing better than Bitcoin. In the short term, this isn't going to happen. This is probably going to take like 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to take you a while to get to that point. But at some point, I do think that something like the I don't know if the S&P 500 specifically, maybe there will be like a Bitcoin treasury company, maybe a Bitcoin treasury company index that'll probably outperform Bitcoin. But I don't know if the S&P 500 in its current form will. I don't think that's possible because the S&P 500 is way too risky. There's way too many different things that could happen to completely destroy the value that the S&P 500 has. So let's say the S&P 500, all the companies are in the US, right? So if the US does something where they increase taxes, every single company in the S&P 500 could be massively just hurt by that because the taxes would make it so that their profit margins decrease, right? So that's one thing that could happen. I don't know if the S&P 500 in its current form would be able to beat Bitcoin, but if it's like a Bitcoin 500 or something, maybe in that case it would. Okay, so let's go to another question here. Really great question, by the way. So somebody said, Randall said, so just get paid in Bitcoin. I think that's a great way to do it. And they also said, I'm just going to do that from here on out. All my money I make into Bitcoin. If you have enough money to pay for your expenses, I think that's great. Use it to buy Bitcoin, right? If you have enough money to pay for your expenses, use the excess to buy Bitcoin. I think that's an amazing decision because if you put it into Bitcoin, you're going to see that the purchasing power is going to increase over time. That's always going to happen over the long term. If you wait 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, 20 years, you're going to see that the value increases. And I want to show a chart. I showed this chart last time as well, but of course, there are new people here now. So let me show that chart. So there's a Bitcoin 4-year moving average chart. Share my screen. Bitcoin 4-year moving average chart. You can see here that the price at the end of the day is always a distraction. It's just going to go up and come down, go up, come down. It'll keep doing that, right? It's never going to stop happening. That's never going to stop happening. But what I always try to focus on is don't look at the price. Don't look at the daily price. The Bitcoin price could go up and down every single day, but your goal should be to increase the amount of Satoshis you have. If you can keep increasing the amount of Satoshis you have, you're going to be better off at some point. At some point, your stack is going to be worth way more than what it's worth today. And you're going to probably, in terms of fiat currency, and you're going to be able to use that to buy whatever you really want to. And again, we go back to that infinite money glitch where if you hold on to, let's say in that example, that the truck example, we had said 0.15 Bitcoin. If you have 0.15 Bitcoin, collateral is worth 17,000. You can borrow $4,400. You can essentially keep doing this over and over again. And the only way that this works is if you stack Bitcoin, right? So let's say, for example, you start stacking Bitcoin today. In 10 years, you should be able to take a Bitcoin loan for whatever amount you want. And the underlying principle of this, the fundamental of this, the fundamental principle here is stacking Bitcoin. That's it. All you have to do is stack Satoshis. At some point, you'll be able to take on a loan against your Bitcoin. And that's what gives it that infinite money glitch. That's what makes it that infinite money glitch, right? So let's see if we have any more questions here. I'm just going to do that. Yeah, I would completely agree. Keep doing that. Keep earning value and keep buying Bitcoin. I completely agree with this. I am like Bitcoin. I'll be here for you forever. I'll try to be at least for as long as I can. I think that it's really important that we try to improve everybody else's understanding of Bitcoin. And if we don't, think about it. If I hadn't had all the people that I watched on YouTube, if I hadn't seen all the ebooks or sorry the audiobooks that I read, if Saifedean hadn't written the Bitcoin Standard, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? So my goal here is to pay it back. I want to make sure that everybody that I know, everybody that's willing to understand Bitcoin, to put in the time to understand Bitcoin, they can get it and they can increase their wealth. So over time, my goal is to be here for you as long as I can. Of course, I won't outlast Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be around much longer than I am. So, okay, let's take a look at some other comments here. What do you think of all the new Ethereum news and use cases? How does that affect Bitcoin? It doesn't. Ethereum does not affect Bitcoin. Ethereum is completely separate. Ethereum is a different asset. The way that I see it, one thing that holds Bitcoin back is the fact that Ethereum has an unlimited supply. Let me just pull that up here. So I think it's CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. CoinMarketCap, Ethereum. I'll show you what the supply of Ethereum is like. There it is. So the supply of Ethereum is infinite. There is no supply cap. The supply can keep increasing forever. If we take a look at the website, what's it called? Ultrasound Money. That's the site. Ultrasound.money. So this is the website. This is a website that was supposed to show you how ETH does after the merge. So the merge was supposed to be something where they had Ethereum become deflationary, but it's not deflationary. In fact, it's inflationary. So there's more ETH now than there ever was before. And you have no idea what this number is going to go up to. It'll keep going up forever. Even if people buy ETH, let's say, for example, BlackRock buys hundreds of thousands of ETH, millions of ETH. The issue with them buying ETH is that you have to stake your ETH in order to get interest paid on it, right? So if you don't have your ETH staked, then you're just holding on to a melting ice cube. That melting ice cube will keep decreasing and decreasing in value because more and more ETH will be created. More and more ETH will be added to the economy, fulfilling the demand for ETH. There's also the other problem where there was a massive pre-mine. So something like 70% of the total supply was created upfront, and it was handed to the insiders at ETH, right? It was handed to people who I guess contributed to it. But on the other hand, with Bitcoin, it doesn't work that way. With Bitcoin, everybody has equal access to creating more Bitcoin. Anybody can mine Bitcoin. Anybody can set up a mining rig at home. If you want to, you can do this pretty easily. But with ETH, that's not that's not an option. If you want to stake, you have to use a company to stake. If you want to, if you really want to do anything, if you want to confirm your transactions, you can't run a node on your own. You have to use a company because the network, the ledger for ETH is so massive. So I don't think that the news makes any difference. I think ETH is going to zero. It's trending to zero in terms of Bitcoin forever, and you can see that on the charts. So if we go to tradingview.com, I'm going to just open this up and I'll go ETH BTC. So if we take a look at ETH BTC, let me zoom out. I want to show this to you guys because this is a question that I get all the time as well. So if we go to ETH BTC, you can see here, the highest price that ETH ever reached in terms of Bitcoin was 0.15693 Bitcoin. So at 1.1 ETH was worth 0.15693 Bitcoin. Today, it's worth 0.039 Bitcoin. So 1 ETH is worth 0.039 Bitcoin today. You can see that number here, 0.037 Bitcoin. So this is what 1 ETH is worth today. At one point, like I said, it was worth 0.15. Today it's worth 0.037. So it's down about 80% from the top. Of course, in the short term, it could go up. So we saw here, it went up from the beginning, but after that, it just keeps going down. It keeps going down. It will continue to go down because, again, there's no supply cap. That's key here. There's no supply cap. And then number two, Bitcoin solves the biggest problem that the world has. No matter what kind of use cases you come up with for ETH can't outperform Bitcoin in the long term because more people can hold on to Bitcoin. More people can find value in Bitcoin. Bitcoin solves a problem that we've been trying to solve for thousands of years. ETH has smart contracts, right? You can't compare the two. They're not even close to being the same. I don't personally care if more and more companies buy ETH. It doesn't really matter to me because that's not my goal. Isn't to increase my fiat balance of of my portfolio. My goal is to increase my purchasing power. So even though ETH's price is going up in terms of dollars, in terms of Bitcoin, it's decreasing. My goal is to have as much Bitcoin as possible. My goal is to increase my Bitcoin denominated wealth as much as I possibly can. And that's what holding Bitcoin does. So over time, your Bitcoin denominated wealth, if you don't hold Bitcoin, is going to keep decreasing. So as an example here, let me show you. if we take a look at the top assets in the world, I'm just going to leave the trading view. If we take a look at all the top assets in the world, you can see here, all of Bitcoin is worth $2.34 trillion. $2.34 trillion. If you take a look at NVIDIA, so NVIDIA is one company. It does one thing. It creates one product. NVIDIA is worth like 38 million Bitcoin. So there in total, there are 21 million Bitcoin. NVIDIA is worth 38 million Bitcoin. So what's going to have to happen is for Bitcoin to become money, I think this is when you're going to be too late to buy Bitcoin. Number one, everything is traded in Bitcoin. Even then, you'd be early because Bitcoin will be the best store of value at that point. But at that point, you're not going to be buying Bitcoin. You're going to be earning it, right? So number two, you're going to see that the housing market is worth less than the entire Bitcoin cap. The entire market cap of Bitcoin is going to be more than what the housing market is worth, because today it's worth way more. So today Bitcoin is worth way less than the entire housing market, right? So in terms of Bitcoin, the price of the entire housing market will have to drop significantly. So if you look at the price today, the housing market's worth like $300 trillion, while Bitcoin is only worth 2.34 trillion. So if you look at all of the different asset classes, they're going to have to fit inside Bitcoin. Even the stock market is worth $120 trillion. The bond market is worth like $350 trillion. Gold, you can see here, gold is worth $22.7 trillion. Bitcoin is the only form of money that anybody in the world can use. Anybody in the world can access it. Not everybody in the world can access NVIDIA. Not everybody in the world can access Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, Amazon. Not everybody in the world can access these companies, but everybody on earth can access Bitcoin. Something else that you might notice here is that silver has been around for thousands of years. Bitcoin has taken over as the second most valuable asset that's not centralized. So before, silver would have been higher up than Bitcoin, and over time, Bitcoin has taken over, and now Bitcoin is more valuable than silver. Over time, you're going to see that Bitcoin passes Amazon, then it'll pass Alphabet, then it'll pass Apple. It'll pass all of these assets. Eventually, it'll be number two. I don't know. I think that could happen this cycle. I think that will happen this cycle. But let's say 8 years from now, 10 years from now, at some point, you're going to see that Bitcoin surpasses gold. But at the same time, gold's market cap will keep increasing. So Bitcoin's market cap will just increase much, much faster. I hope that answers that question. I don't really think that ETH compares to Bitcoin, even like it's not even close to the same thing. It's a complete. I would say ETH is a joke compared to Bitcoin. Okay, so the next question here: thoughts on Bitcoin reaches 350K, then a massive 70 to 80% correction. That's definitely possible. So if Bitcoin goes to 350K, so 350 times 0.3, if Bitcoin goes to 350K and then it drops 70%, it would drop all the way down to 105K. So it would be barely below where we are today. So a lot of people are expecting that Bitcoin is going to go to 50, 60, 70K. I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of people think Bitcoin's going to 30K. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bitcoin's price is going to go much higher than where we are today. And you're going to see that even 105, if Bitcoin does fall 70%, I think that we're not going to go really far below 100K, to be honest. I don't think we're going to go below like 70, 80. I would be surprised if we go below 70K. That was the last market top. That's why I'm saying 70K specifically. But if it's a 70K, if it drops to 70K, so if it goes to 350 and then it drops to, actually, let me do it the other way. So if it goes to 70K, well, that would be an 80K drop or 80% drop. So if it goes from 350K to 70K, that would be an 80% drop. And that's perfectly, that's possible. That could happen. I'm not saying it will. It could. And I don't think that it'll go lower than that. That's what I think here. And the reason for that is that we already went through all of the consolidation for 70 to 80K Bitcoin. I don't think there's many people left to sell at that price. I think most of the people who bought at those prices, they've already sold because the price went lower after they bought, the price went lower, or they sold at a profit and they gave away their Bitcoin and they expect Bitcoin to go much lower, so they'll buy back. So I don't think there's much Bitcoin left to be sold under 100K, but who knows? Let's see. I guess we'll have to see what happens over the next little while. Another great question here. Question for you. I have a personal line of credit at 65K at 11% per year. Is it a good idea to DCA into Bitcoin? I have no issues paying that interest only payment per month. So what I would say is maybe keep the interest for a year aside and then put the rest of it into I don't know. Okay, so this depends on how your understanding of Bitcoin. I think that's really important here. So your understanding of Bitcoin is very important here because it depends on, let's say Bitcoin's price falls 80%. Will you sell? If you sell, you're going to take a massive loss, right? And are you going to be worried and are you going to be scared and then you sell your Bitcoin? Because if you do that, then you lock in your loss. If you hold on to that Bitcoin, eventually, let's say you buy at 117K, eventually that price will go way higher than 117K. So if you understand that part, that the price will eventually go higher than 117K, and you just hold through any volatility, I think that could work. But even then, it's risky, right? Because Bitcoin could go into an extended bear market. Let's say we go sideways for 8 years. Maybe it wouldn't be worth it. I think that 11% interest rate is kind of high if you're taking on if you're taking on unsecured debt with a bank. I think you can get a little bit lower than that. But really, I mean, it depends on you at this point. I don't know if buying Bitcoin as a lump sum right now would be the best decision. But again, that's up to you. If you think Bitcoin's price is going to keep going up, then maybe it'd be smart. If I were you though, and I wanted to borrow money to buy Bitcoin, I would personally do it after a drawback. And the reason for that is that if it falls significantly, then there's less for it to fall. So if it falls, let's say 50%, what are the chances that it'll fall another 50%? Probably not that much, right? It could, not saying that it won't, but the chances of that are lower. And then that way you get more Bitcoin using that debt. So this is up to you. If you think Bitcoin could potentially fall, then maybe it wouldn't be worth it. Okay. Next one here. Yeah. So when you think of it, just look at it as a savings account getting 30 to 50% CAGR, compound annual growth rate year after year. People did in the 80s with savings account with like at like 15%, same thing, but better. Completely agree. Bitcoin is a savings account. It's a way for you to save for the future. If you have, let's say, stocks, those are an investment. Stocks are an investment because they have risk. Bitcoin does not have the same risks that stock does. The price can go way lower than where it is today, but it doesn't have the same risks. So when you have a stock, for example, I mentioned before that it depends on your location. If your country doesn't want to let you borrow or doesn't want a company to be able to borrow money to pay for its for all of its operations, then maybe that company has a very difficult time even making any profits at all, right? And that's something that you have to consider. With Bitcoin, you don't have to consider that. Bitcoin can't go bankrupt. Every other company can. Every company can. Every even real estate, the people who own real estate could go bankrupt, but Bitcoin can't, right? So if you're thinking about starting a business or buying a business over buying Bitcoin, then you have to think about this. You have to think about the fact that again, a business can go bankrupt. Okay, this person said we're going way under 100K. It's definitely possible. 60 to 70K, definitely possible. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to 70K or if it goes to a million. I wouldn't be surprised either way. But I don't know if we're going to go back that low again. It already happened. We were at 75K for a very long time. I don't know if that's going to happen again. Yes, I agree. If you're here, please hit the like button. It really helps with my channel. It really helps with spreading this content to more people. Hit the like button. It would really be appreciated. Next one here. When is one sat going to be equal to $1 US? This is my dream, my friends. I don't know how long that's going to happen. It could take a very long time. But you also have to understand that with Bitcoin going to $1 US, you would have lost a significant amount of your purchasing power as well. But if we take a look at the compound interest calculator, I like using this compound interest calculator because it just shows you all of the numbers for when this could happen. So let's say that you continuously get a let's say that you get let's say you put $250 into Bitcoin every month. $250 into Bitcoin every month. Bitcoin grows at 35% per year. Bitcoin's price would be at $100 million in 2048. For one Bitcoin, 2048. I don't know if that's going to be the case, though. I have no idea if that's going to be the case. So let's go with a little bit lower of a return, because we know that the returns will decrease over time, potentially. I don't personally know if Bitcoin would actually decrease, if Bitcoin's growth will actually decrease, because the US dollar can continue to lose value forever. So if we go a little bit more conservative here, we'll go with like 25%. If the return is 25%, it'll take until 2056 for Bitcoin to reach $100 million. If we go with 20%, even more conservative, it'll take until 2062 for Bitcoin to reach $100 million. If we go even more conservative than that, at some point it's going to happen, right? If we go with 15%, at some point it will happen. So at 15%, it'll take until 2074. At some point it will happen, but if you keep stacking, you're going to be able to take advantage of that at some point, right? Either you're going to be able to take advantage of that, your family is going to be able to take advantage of that, your kids, your grandkids, whoever it is, at some point they'll be able to take advantage of that. So let's say if you keep stacking $250 worth of Bitcoin every month, you start with 0 Bitcoin. When Bitcoin is $100 million, in this case, $100 million would be reached, like I said, in 2074, you'd have 0.19 Bitcoin worth $21 million. And if you wanted to, you could borrow, you see here, you could borrow $541,000 against that Bitcoin at a very, very low LTV. Your Bitcoin would be worth 3,000% of your total annual expenses. But at this point, your annual expenses would have gone up to $655,000. So they would have gone from $60,000 a year to $655,000. So just based on that, your expenses would have gone up 10x, a little bit more, like 11x. But your Bitcoin would have increased significantly. It would have increased way more than that. So what's $110 million divided by 117,000? Let me do the calculation here. 110 million. I'll do $111 million divided by 117,000. So your Bitcoin would have gone up by 948 times, 948x. But your expenses would have gone up by 11x. And keep in mind that this is with a 5% inflation rate. 5% inflation rate. I think that the gap between Bitcoin's growth and the inflation rate is going to be much, much bigger. So let's go with that 30% that I was mentioning before, a little bit more bullish. But in this case, it'll take you until 2051 to get to $100 million worth, for one Bitcoin to be $100 million. By then, you'll have 0.11 Bitcoin if you keep stacking $250 a month. And let's see here, $100 million. Your Bitcoin will be worth $11 million. And at that point, you'd be able to take on a loan for, scroll down a little bit, $297,000. That's insane. That's crazy. Like now, I mean, you're only putting in, let's see how much you're putting in that case. So if you're putting in, so 2051, that would be 26 years from now. Let's change this to 26 years. You would have put in $78,000. Your Bitcoin would be worth $11.9 million. That's crazy. And you could take on a loan for $297,000 with 5% of your collateral being used as 5% of your stack being used as collateral. So you're only taking on a loan against 2.5% of your stack. And that's with a 30% growth rate. These numbers can get absolutely insane. So when does one sat equal to $1? This could take, it could take 2 years. For all we know, Bitcoin's price could just go crazy. It could just go absolutely insane in the short term. But over the long term, I'm not sure how long it could take, right? If the returns are a lot more conservative than we expect, then it'll take longer. Okay, let's see if there's any other comments, and I'm going to close it off at that point. Let's see here. Just looking through the comments here. We don't care about the fiat. Yes, perfect. We don't care about the price in fiat, only gold or oil. Perfect. In terms of gold and oil, the price of Bitcoin keeps going down. The US dollar is manipulated. 100% agree. Jerry, how's it going, man? I don't know if you're still there. It's been like 11 minutes since you left this comment. Appreciate you, man. So nice seeing you in Vegas there. Okay, let's see who else is talking here. Is all the value in Bitcoin in its scarcity? No, the value in Bitcoin isn't in its scarcity. The value is in its characteristics. So if you If you just have scarcity, like the Mona Lisa is very scarce and it keeps going up in value. Of course, that's part of the value. But the reason why Bitcoin's value keeps going up is because it has more than just scarcity. It has a balance of all the characteristics we need money to have. So let me show you what those characteristics are. I've shown this before in my live sessions, but I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this again. Let me just pull that up here. Let me find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so if we take a look at the characteristics of money, so again, the question is all the value in Bitcoin in its scarcity? Is the number of Bitcoin wasn't capped like other crypto, what would we use? What use would it have, or would it be worthless? No, I don't think it would be worthless, but it would be worth a lot less because if it didn't have a cap, then anybody could create it again, right? They could recreate it over and over again. So these are the characteristics of money these are the characteristics we want money to have. So we want it to be fungible, we want it to be portable, we want it to be durable, we want it to be divisible, we want it to be scarce, decentralized, saleable, and verifiable, right? So all of these characteristics as a balance are very important for humans, right? These are what we need money to have because they make it so that our money can be used as money. If, let's say, for example, if your money wasn't portable, how are you going to pay other people? You can't. So what we had before was we had gold. We had gold for thousands of years. We used gold because it had all these characteristics. It had a decent balance, but we didn't have anything that was more portable than gold because at that point, digital goods didn't exist, right? There was no internet. At that point, it was divisible enough, but it wasn't, sorry, it was divisible, but it wasn't divisible enough, right? So you couldn't, like, let's say, for example, if you wanted to pay for a coffee, you're gonna have to use a little chisel to pay for that coffee, right? And that's going to be way too difficult. You have to take out a chisel, you have to weigh the amount of gold that you have, then you have to pay for that coffee with like a little shaving of gold, and that wouldn't really make any sense. So what we started doing was we started using tokens to replace that gold, and we started using the US dollar. So US dollars replaced gold because they were more divisible, they were more portable. But the problem here, the trade-off here was that they're not as scarce because you can print as many dollars as you want to. So if we go to Bitcoin here, we can see all the different kinds of money. You can take a screenshot or something if you want to. But if we take a look at Bitcoin, it's the best of everything. It has the best balance of everything. Of course, it's not as saleable yet as US dollars, and it's not as saleable as gold because the world doesn't really recognize it as money yet, but eventually it will. I think eventually people will recognize that Bitcoin is the best money in the world. And once they do, that's when you see Bitcoin's price rise significantly from where it is today. Okay, let's take a look at another comment here. What's up, Vic Shoots? How's it going, man? All right, next one. What's the maximum amount you would borrow against one Bitcoin at the current prices and through what platform? I would say a maximum 0.05 to 0.1 Bitcoin. Probably nothing higher than that. I wouldn't go higher than that. Okay, next comment here. I'll be happy even if it goes to $100. Exactly. Price drops make you happy. It means that you can buy more, right? That's the key. You can buy more Bitcoin. If the price goes down, you get to buy way more. That's the best thing that you can do. Okay, if it goes below 100K, great buying opportunity. Absolutely. Completely agree. Gotta let us know when you go live. Yes, I should have let you guys know in advance, but I just thought of this randomly. I was a little bored. I didn't have anything to do. My wife is working right now, so just wanted to go live. Thought it'd be great. Thought it'd be fun. Okay, see here. A lot of retire on calculators auto load about 13% for inflation. Why so high? We're talking 5 right now in this conversation. I think 13% is a little high. It would be 5% seems, I think even 5% seems high right now because the inflation rate is probably lower and CPI is being set as lower. I don't know how they would have gotten 13%, to be honest. I don't know. Okay, let me look through if there's any other questions here. I don't think there's any other questions. This is great. I had a lot of fun. We had Jor on here. I hope we answered the questions that you had. And I think this is where we are going to stop it. So let me show you a couple of things here. So a couple of things that I want you guys to know about is, number one, I want you to join the Bitcoin Explained community. I think it's super valuable. The Bitcoin Explained community is just me. I have a community of my own. $20 a month. You can join weekly live sessions with me. You can join a Zoom call where we talk basically one-on-one. You can turn on your camera if you want to. You don't have to, but we talk to one another. We have a community where we talk about any questions that people have. And then the second thing that I want to talk to you guys about is my one-on-one meetings. I've had a lot of one-on-one meetings recently. A lot of people are booking meetings with me because they want to ask questions. Some people haven't bought Bitcoin yet because they have one question, one nagging question that stops them from buying it. Book a one-on-one call with me. I created a 15-minute option. So in that 15-minute option, let's say you have one or two questions, go ahead and ask them. Maybe that could push you to start buying Bitcoin. I've had people who booked a one-on-one meeting with me, and right after the meeting, they start buying Bitcoin. They set up a recurring buy, they set up a lump sum, and they buy as much as they can. So what I'll do here is I'll pin the links for the one-on-one meetings and the community in the comments below. You can also check the description. You can find the links for both of those in the description. Other than that, leave a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It helps with spreading my content to more people. It helps with Bitcoin adoption. If more people see these conversations, then more people are going to understand how Bitcoin works. That's about it for today. Let's end the stream here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate the support. Oh, actually, one more question. Somebody asked, so Over Easy Films asked, do you provide corporate accounting services related to Bitcoin only? I don't. I don't do accounting. I'm a chartered financial analyst. It's a different role. I don't do the accounting stuff. Jor does accounting, but he's no longer a CPA. What I would recommend is find a Bitcoin only accountant, and they will be able to help you with any accounting needs. I don't personally know of any myself. Okay, so I'm going to end it off there. I hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday for 2 hours at 7 o'clock. You could have been doing anything other than learning about Bitcoin. Really appreciate everyone coming on here. Really appreciate Jor coming on here as well. All right, everyone. Bye for now.